Hi you guys, this is Sasha with Pinwheels Quilting in Valdosta, Georgia, and I wanted to show you another awesome creative grids tool that is one of my absolute favorites. So to start off with, let me zoom off of myself. Okay, so the Strippy Star Ruler, first I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the Strippy Star Ruler by Creative Grids. Let's put some fabric behind it so you can just maybe see the markings a little bit better. So hopefully when I zoom in you can see all the different markings, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so there are a ton of different markings on here. So I used the Strippy Star Ruler to make this beautiful block today. Isn't this gorgeous? With the Creative Grids Strippy Star Ruler. So the Strippy Star tool makes 8 different sizes of floating star blocks using squares and strips. So all 8 sizes tell you what size square and strip you need, along with what size. So, for example, I wanted to use 5-inch squares, which would make a 4.5-inch finished square. So I looked here on the tool, and it shows if I want a 4.5-inch finished square, that I need to cut my squares at 5 inches and then my strips at 2 3/4 inches. Now I didn't have exactly 2 3/4 inch strips. I had 3-inch strips just left over, and we'll talk about this, and I'm going to show you how this all comes together in just a minute. So my point is, on the ruler, depending on how small or how large of a block that you're making, it actually shows you. So for another example, I wanted to make this little baby block today. It's so small and so cute. So I wanted to make this little baby block today. So on the ruler, it tells me if I want 1-inch finished squares, that I need to cut my squares at 1.5 inches and use a 1 1/4 inch strip. So let's get to it. You guys let me know where you're watching from. I would love it. We loved seeing where everyone was when we did our last demo. And then also let me know if you're watching live or after it's been recorded. So we are super, super excited to have you guys joining us. We have quite a few people watching now, so that's awesome. Okay, so to start off with, the Strippy Star Ruler can make anywhere up to 13.5-inch finished squares. So, and then since the stars float, you don't have to worry about cutting off your points. So all you have to do is just select 9 squares for each block. So you need 4 corner squares that don't get sewn on or anything, just 4 corner squares. You need a center square, and then you need 4 squares to become your foundation for your star points. So I chose just to use the same background color for my center square to be the same color as my points. But really, you could do whatever you wanted with this and totally make it your own. So let's get started. Okay, so to start off with, for this example, I'm going to be using 5-inch squares. So I cut my background squares to 5 inches. What I'm going to do first, hi Rita, how are you? Welcome. Hi Carol. Hi guys, nice to see you again. Okay, so to start off with, I think I already said that once, but I'm so excited. Okay, so you're going to take the tool, and I'm going to do this upside down so y'all can see. And I'm going to zoom in. All right, so here's my 5-inch square. And on the ruler, there's actually a line that coincides with the 5-inch square here at the bottom. So I'm actually going to, it says 4.5-inch finished, and you just need a 5-inch square to do this. So I'm going to line the line up at the bottom that is for the 5-inch square. I'm lining the line up on the ruler with my raw edge of my square. And I'm just going to take a pin. Now it's very important that this is not a friction pin or anything that's going to iron away, because you actually need these lines to stay on. So I'm going to take a pin, and I'm just going to mark here and mark here. So you will be left with just this block that has the V on it. Do you see that? All right, so you'll do this for each block. You'll do it 4 times. So you'll do this 4 times so that you have 4 different marks, just lining that line up at the bottom of your square. You'll just make the mark. Easy peasy, right? So the next step, and this is so easy. So I told you that on the ruler, it tells you what size of strips you need. I cut my strips at 3 inches. The ruler says you can go as small as 2 3/4 and have it work, but this doesn't have to be perfect. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take our 3-inch square, or 3-inch strip rather, and we are going to sew these squares onto our strip. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to show you what I mean. So to start off with, when you first start sewing, you are going to, just on the side of the strip, just roughly start out sewing a 1/4 of an inch seam, right? So when you start sewing, when you're sitting at your machine, the V's are actually going to be pointing away from you for the first time. So what you're going to do, you're just going to start sewing a 1/4 of an inch seam down the green or whatever color strip, the strip you have, and then you're just going to lay your first square on. And you're going to try to position this line so this line is roughly a 1/4 of an inch from the raw edge of your strip. It does not have to be perfect. And you're just going to sew along that line that you drew. So again, the V is pointing at you. So you're going to sew down, leave a little bit of room, and then go ahead and put your next square on. And you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to line that line up and sew on that line. So you're going to do it so that all 4 strips, all 4 squares are sewn onto this strip. Okay? So you have this 3-inch strip with all 4 squares sewn on. Then what you're going to do, and I'm trying to work backwards so you guys can just really see what I'm doing. You're just going to take a pair of scissors or a rotary cutter, and you're just going to cut, cut, cut. So when you're cutting, you want to, obviously you don't want to cut your square, but that's why we wanted to leave that little bit of space so that when we cut these apart, there was a little bit of room to do that. All right, so after you cut those apart, what you're going to be left with is this. All right, so your first one, you're going to be left with this. So now we need to iron. So we're going to go over to the iron and we're going to press this open. Now, when we press this open, you need to press it so that, I'm going to finger press it just to show you. So I'm just going to press the strip open, not the whole thing. The reason is, when you flip this over, you still need to be able to see that line that we drew for when we do the remaining part. So you see how you can still see that line? We still need the entire square visible with the markings on it. Okay? So let's press this open. Is everybody ready for Halloween? Isn't it crazy that it's already almost Thanksgiving, Christmas? Oh my goodness. I saw something that was like 6 Fridays or 10 Fridays until Christmas, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe it. It just doesn't seem possible. Okay, so I've pressed this open and this is what it looks like. This is totally normal. This is what it is supposed to look like at this point. Now I'm going to go to my cutting mat and I'm going to square this up. Since this was originally a 5-inch square, I'm just squaring it up to 5 inches. This part I'm not going to do backwards, but I know you guys know how to square up. So I'm going to go ahead and get my cutting mat and my ruler, and I'm going to set my block on my mat so that the block is facing me and the strip part is kind of in the upper right area. And I'm just going to take a ruler and square it up. So I'm going to square this up to 5 inches. And then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm just going to, and I'll actually do this. So I'm going to cut here. Who loves the rotating cutting mat? It is the best thing in the world. All right, so I'm just squaring this up so that now I have this. Let me zoom in. Now I have this. Okay, so half of our Strippy star is done. And I'll show you again just for a reference point. So this is what it's going to end up as. So half of our first block is finished. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to get your next strip and we're going to sew again. So this time, when you start sewing, you'll still do the same thing. You'll still start out sewing a 1/4 of an inch. But this time, your points are going to go away from you. So your second time, your points are going to go away. So what you're going to do when you put these on. You're going to sew your 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to put the block so that it's pointing away from you. You're going to line this line roughly 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the raw fabric, and you're going to sew down this line. And you're going to sew a little bit, sew down the line. So you're going to just do the same thing that you did the first time, except this time you've flipped the block and you're sewing on the other side. Who's with me? Isn't this fun? Okay, so what we're going to do when we finish sewing on the strip for the second time, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to the cutting mat. We are going to use a pair of scissors or a rotary cutter, and we're just going to separate each one again like we did the first time. All right, so you're going to do that all 4 times so that you now have 4 individual pieces. Awesome, Sue. Thanks for the feedback. Thank you, thank you. All right, so now you have 4 different blocks. We're only working with the one right now, so I'm going to set these to the side. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead, we're going to press this open. I like to finger press it first. And you also do want to leave this little flap right here. I didn't trim the background fabric away because that's like in foundation piecing, it just helps keep your points nice and crisp. You can trim it away if you don't like the bulk, but I left all of mine for this, and it lays really nicely. Okay, so back to what we're doing. So we are just going to press this open again. So we're going back to our pressing mat. If y'all don't have a wool pressing mat, I feel like you're missing half of your life. It is the best thing ever. So we're just going to go ahead and press this open. At this point, I'll probably use just a little bit of best press. Let me zoom out just a little bit. I'll use just a little bit of best press. Just make sure that's nice and crisp and open. And then after you press this open, we're going to square this up to a 5-inch square again. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, back to our cutting mat. So we're going to leave all of the bulk, everything that needs trimmed, in the upper right hand area of our mat. And we are going to square this up to 5 inches again. So we're going to get ready, get all lined up. Who else has to stand up to cut? I do not like to cut sitting down. I don't like it at all. So I'm going to use my rotating mat because it is the best thing since sliced bread. And then I'm going to trim this side off. All right. So you guys, look what we have. We have one block created with the Strippy Star ruler. So this is one of my favorite rulers because look how nice and crisp those points are. It's just perfect. And then the nice thing is when you turn it over, you can see where these threads cross on the back. Let me try to get it a little closer. You can see right up here where these threads cross. So it's nice because when you're sewing it together, that's your seam allowance so that you still have all of your points. So you obviously don't want to sew on the inside of this because then you're going to lose that point, but you also have that built-in room so that you have that nice 1/4 inch seam allowance and you have those nice points. So that is all I have for you. I just wanted to show you how awesome the Strippy Star ruler is. You guys need one if you don't have one. It is one of my favorites and one of our favorites at the shop. So without further ado, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. If we can help you with anything, please let us know. We do have the Strippy Star rulers available here at the quilt shop, so if we can help you with that, we would love to. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching. Bye.